Welcome back to our Introduction to SQL or Structured Query Language course. This is session 5. In this video, we are going to discuss table constraints. So table constraints are constraints at the table level as opposed to the column level. So an identity constraint is any constraint that gives each record its own unique identity. So the unique constraint prevents duplicate values from being entered into the column. So each column is unique. Both the primary key and unique constraints can be used to enforce entity integrity. Multiple unique constraints can be defined for a table. So this is enforcing data rules of the enterprise. Again, these are rules that can be implemented at the database level. So these rules don't need to be coded at the application level. When a unique constraint is added to an existing table, the existing data is always validated, and feedback can be delivered to the database programmer or database administrator at that time if there are any violations. And then they'll have to take action. A unique constraint can be placed on the columns that accept nulls, and only one row can be null. So with a unique constraint, you can have a null value. With a primary key constraint, there are no null values accepted. Primary keys always have to be non-null. A unique constraint automatically creates a unique index on the selected column. So let's take a look here at a demonstration. So here we ran the create table command, and we did it in multi-lines just to make it easier to view. And as we can see here, from this command, we ran, again, the create table. We can see the columns and their data types that were passed in and the constraints on the columns. We see here we have a primary key in ID. So this ID is going to be constrained there, and that always has to be unique. And then we have a unique key employee code. So this employee code is a unique key. If we list or show the columns for employees, we can look over here. ID is primary, and no nulls are permitted. So that is the abbreviation for primary. And if we look here at employee code, we can see the data type. In this case, no nulls are accepted, and we can see the unique key. So we can see what's being enforced there. Another table constraint is the foreign key constraint. And the foreign key constraint defines a column or combination of columns, that's important, whose values match the primary key in another table. So the foreign key is that link between tables, and it is also how the tables relate. So a data architect must analyze the enterprise and let us know how the tables relate. So values in the foreign key are automatically updated when the primary key values in the associated table are updated or changed. So that's convenient. Foreign key constraints must reference primary keys or the unique constraint of another table. The number of columns for a foreign key must be the same as the primary key or unique constraint, so they must be consistent. If the with no check option is used, the foreign key constraint will not validate existing data in tables, so that's important to know. No index is created on columns that participate in the foreign key constraint. So let's take a look at a table here with a foreign key. So this is a demonstration here. We created a table, product order, and it is relating back to the customer ID in the customer table. So this, and we can see the reference here again. So we created this, we just ran this command, we used a multi-line approach just so it's easier to view and understand. And we can see here we have the product order relates back to a customer ID, and that makes perfect sense. If a customer has a order, we want to know which customer that order is for. And the foreign key also gives us that link back to the customer table, so we can list the attributes of a customer without duplicating them in this table. So that is a key convenience that the foreign key gives us. If we list here product order, we can see that this mul or multiple here is being used. And if we look up here, we have another foreign key in product category and product ID, and we can see what it references. And that also is another relation as well. And with a lot of databases, you will see the term under the key mul or multiple, and that is the foreign key. It's not it doesn't say foreign or anything like that for different reasons, but the foreign key is indicated by multiple. So we can see product category is a foreign key. Customer ID is a foreign key, and we can see they are indicated down here with the mul indicator, which stands for multiple. And multiple is a correct term. It has multiple references. The check constraint restricts values that can be entered into a table. It can search conditions similar to a where clause in a SQL statement, and we'll get to where clauses, but it just looks for certain conditions. It can reference columns in the same table. The data validation rule for the check constraint must evaluate to a Boolean expression, meaning true or false. It can be defined for a column that has a rule bound to it. And the default constraint, as the name implies, a value is supplied automatically and added to that column if the user does not supply one. So a column can have one default value, and the default constraint cannot be used on columns with a timestamp, data type, or identity property. Default constraints are automatically bound to a column when they are created. So when the column is created, that's when the default is added. Let's take a quick look at this demonstration. Here again, we created a table, contacts, and we can see here that we added a column, contact group. We see the data type here, variable character or varchar 50, and we have default, and we're entering text here. Probably the most well-known or automatic type of default is null. Sometimes it's actually in conflict with the null column, whether null is permitted or not, but a lot of times you'll see the default will go to null. In this case, you could see here we passed default general. So if we don't supply data for contact group, the database will automatically supply the text right here, general. Now the default can be overridden on when data is inserted by simply inserting data into that column, but this is the default, and there are many other variations of default. So we could see here in this extra auto increment, we're using an integer, but it automates the you can see here it automates the increasing of the ID here, so that will always be unique. So there is a default there as well, but it's not under the default column. So that's something else to understand.